What's up, Rapport family? Want to thank you for tuning in late on a Saturday night for a little post-game reaction to Auburn's game 3 against New Mexico. They win 45-19. Started off a little rocky at first. Auburn had a 4-point lead at the half, but began to cruise in the second half. Some concerns, we'll talk about that, but the story of this game is definitely the offense. Hank Brown, man of many nicknames, many people calling him Hank Downtown Brown, Hank Baby Goat Brown, had a good showing in his first collegiate start with Auburn. Complete 17 of 25 passes for 4 touchdowns. Uh, did an amazing job in his first start and looked calm and composed. One of the things that stood out to me is the number of people who caught passes in this game. One of the people who I was really excited for in this game was Camden Brown. He caught 4 passes for 33 yards and a score. So he was sharing the ball around to different people. I liked how he went through his progressions, check downs. There was a couple of throws that I wish he wouldn't have made. They were very risky, but again, overall, a great performance by Hank Brown. And this is the type of confidence that they'll build on moving into SEC play. This is the exact type of performance that you wanted to see out of a redshirt freshman going into SEC play. So kudos to Hank Brown for that. I'm going to bring in Dustin of the Up Tempo podcast. Dustin, welcome, good sir. How are you feeling, man?
Buddy? I'm good, man. Sloppy game, huh? 16 penalties on New Mexico, 8 penalties on us. I felt like that one was never going to get over. So apologize for the lighting on my screen. I'll get that fixed in a second on my camera there. But look, man, I think as far as Hank Brown goes, that's what all eyes were on him, obviously, coming into the game. I think it was as good as you could ask for. The rain got sloppy there for a minute. And then promptly Damari fumbled. I kind of think with the guy putting his helmet on the ball like that, Damari would have fumbled that ball, even if it wasn't raining. Right. Yeah, that was just a good hit there, good defensive play. So yeah, just a sloppy game. And we had definitely still putting the ball too much. Keontae with that punt return and all that. But I think that the positives you can take out of it is it wasn't a disaster. I mean, like when we did our preview show, right? I predicted 27-20 Auburn and said, like, I'm just throwing the score out because I don't know what's about to happen.
Gotcha.
I just had, like, no idea. Like, I'll just pick Auburn by a touchdown at home and see what happens. And I'm pleased, man. I'm pleased. There was a little stretch there where Hank kind of got off script, and I think we went, like, 1 for 5, 1 for 6 at a certain point, and they kind of bounced back and, and regained form and go 9 of 11 there in the second half. Caesar, we gotta get the ball to number 11 and number 3 a little bit more. I know they're only freshmen, but let's feed Malcolm, dude. Let's feed Perry. They're ready to make plays right now. Would have liked to seen Hank, get his opportunity to play with Cam Coleman tonight, but I understand there's no sense in playing him in a game that you think you can handle. Big night for Jarquez. Let's just hang on to the football, man. And in other words, and another guy I want to see us get the ball to a little bit more is 23. I think Jeremiah Cobb's electric. That big kick return there, I would have liked to have seen us kind of get him on a sweep or just let him play running back. Really, just give him the ball a little bit more. But I think we're still figuring that out, man. And it's like on the defense. There's just a lot of young guys. There's a lot of young guys, and I think you're going to see this all season. I think you're going to see inconsistencies. You're going to see ups. You're going to see downs. You're going to see highs. You're going to see lows because you just got a lot of young guys out there playing. But like I think some of them are showing real promise. I think a guy like Antonio Kite, I think he's showing you that he has the potential to be a really good player. So I know people don't like hearing this, but as the season goes on, when you're playing this many young guys, it's just it's gonna be one of the seasons where we're kind of figuring things out, and it might be another 6-6, 7-5 type season. But the thing that I was impressed with tonight is it got hairy there for a while. I mean, what was it, 17-13 at halftime, right. And it come out in the second half because you're coming off of a disappointing loss. You have a quarterback playing in his very first start, a redshirt freshman at that, so a guy that doesn't have a lot of experience, and then there was a lot of these Auburn mistakes, right? Like penalties at the wrong time, 8 penalties for 88 yards. You did turn the ball over, but and a lot of times we've seen Auburn over the last couple of years that kind of it just all kind of dominoes, and then it falls into disaster. Auburn was always kind of able to bounce back and close it out there in the second half and get a big win. So yeah, man, I don't know how much we can take from it, but when you have a young team like this, you just got to kind of take it and look at the positives. So all in all, man, a good night, and I think that we have hope at the quarterback position moving forward. So that's a nice thing.
Definitely hope at the quarterback position. Dylan has joined us from the College Loop. Your thoughts on the second half? Your thoughts about Hank Brown? Talk to us.
Yeah, much improved from the first half. Actually saw a lot better dispersion of the ball. Saw Jarquez Hunter starting to find a groove running the ball. Damari had a nice game in the second half, especially with his awesome touchdown that he was able to get. I saw just again a lot of improvement. Hank Brown able to get the ball to 4 different receivers for all 4 of his touchdown passes. But a lot of the defense just needs to be. They held him out of the end zone, I believe, or they only scored once in the second half. But you got to stop at the 3-man front. The 3-man front is my least favorite defensive formation. Just cannot have that. Able to get a little bit of pressure, but not enough for him not to get the ball out every single time. I don't think Auburn had a single sack in this game, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they had one.
Yeah, but not enough for a D line that has Keldrick Falk and Jalen McLeod in at any given time. And I'm also about to be on the pattern of don't even put a guy back there to return punts anymore. I'm so far anti returning punts now. I've seen too many guys wearing number 0 muff a punt over the past couple of years. So getting tired of that. But overall, I think it's a good win. You got a lot of rhythm going into the second half, and with how Arkansas looked, I think you have a lot to build on, and hopefully you can salvage what you can of the offense. I think Hank Brown looked way more poised than Peyton Thorne did, and this is against a better competition than we saw in week 1 against Alabama A&M. So yeah, a lot to build on. I need to not ever see we count the 4 DBs leading Auburn in tackles on the defense.
Yeah, and what I will say to that, Dylan, is if I had to guess, just looking at the statistics, one of the things that they tried to do was contain Devin Dampier. They did not want him breaking the pocket and gashing Auburn. I think he ran for over 100 yards last week in the loss against Arizona. And that's one of the things that I think the defense wanted to contain. Obviously, when you're focusing on one guy, other people have the opportunity to have some success. And they did have some success on the ground. They gained 157 yards total. I think Eli Sanders was their leading rusher, averaging 10 yards a carry. I think he had 7 carries for 72 yards. So there are some things that, will worry Auburn fans as it pertains to how they missed some tackles, took some poor angles, did not contain as a result of playing the 3-man front and having guys playing in coverage instead of on the line. But I think all that was a part of trying to make sure that Dampier doesn't run wild and keeping him in front of you as opposed to being very aggressive. It's interesting to see if they do deploy that similar strategy next week against Arkansas, because that's a similar athlete as well as a QB. So I'm interested to see what they do to tweak that game plan moving forward. One of the things that I was concerned about, and you kind of touched on it, Dustin, was the running game. Auburn got off to a bit of a slow start, but this is why I think Hank Brown is so important, because while you're trying to get the running game going, Hank Brown is actually gashing the opposing defense and making plays through the air. And now New Mexico has to play you a little bit more honest. And in the second half, not as deep as Auburn. They're getting tired. Now Jarquez is beginning those 3-yard runs, 4-yard runs are starting to become 7 and 8, 9-yard runs. And this is something that didn't happen a lot last year, or really even at all for Auburn. If you were in close games, Auburn wasn't able to run away with the running game like we saw in the second half, because people did not respect Auburn's ability to throw the ball. I think Hank Brown is beginning to change that narrative for a lot of opposing defensive coordinators who are going to game plan for Auburn. But just talk to me more, Dylan, about what you saw in the run game. Dustin already alluded to the fact that, hey, we put the ball on the ground way more than we wanted to see. But just talk overall about, were you pleased with the run game? 268 yards from the ground from Auburn.
Oh, I am elated about that. I've been waiting for a run game to happen for this team since week one. I was surprised Auburn has taken so long to actually adapt and run the ball with their stable of backs. I mean, even Holden Gardner averaged 6 yards a carry tonight, which is a statement I was not planning on saying. But yeah, watching Jarquez and Damari finally get carries. I mean, both guys had 30 carries combined amongst the two of them, which last week, I mean, I don't think either one of them even touched 5 from last week. I know Peyton Thorne had 15 against Cal. Auburn is always going to be built on the run game until proven that they can pass the ball down the field. And yeah, they have the talent to do so, but Hugh Freeze said so much during the offseason. I say this every single week when I talk about how Auburn doesn't run the ball. Hugh Freeze said the best part of this offense is the run game. And tonight was the first night where I can actually see him backing that up. 268 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. As a team, 6.7 yards a carry. That's what you want to see night in and night out with Auburn. And until you can get the playbook more opened up for Hank Brown, I think the run game you should be getting 40 carries a night across the board for the backs.
And Auburn rushed 40 times, 76 plays totals, guys, is what I'm seeing from ESPN. 40 rushes, 26 pass attempts. I think that's right where Hugh Freeze wants to be, especially with the new QB in there. He talked about having a 60-40 run-pass ratio in terms of how he calls it. This is pretty close to where he wants to be. So an ideal game of sorts for Hugh Freeze in terms of being able to control the line of scrimmage with the run and have a QB who can make those throws, guys. And one of the things that the announcers even mentioned in this game, and I observed, was the fact that there were certain throws being made that we just haven't seen in previous games, right? And so for Hank to really see the field, and that's one of the things that stands out to me is Hank sees the field and he sees it quickly. He's able to diagnose and knows where to go with the ball and is able to deliver a good ball. So I think that's one of the things that's really encouraging. Pass defense. Auburn almost gave up 300 yards through the air. Obviously, that's concerning, right? And again, this is a young defensive backfield, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is one of the areas where we could potentially take some of our lumps this year. And this is an example of that we're able to get 2 picks in this game. Jaron Thompson made an amazing play, and
the Bama plant,
Antonio Kite made a pick as well. So your thoughts about next week? I'll go to you, Dustin, in terms of what Auburn does next week against an Arkansas team.
Well, in terms of what Auburn does against Arkansas next week, so far 3 weeks through college football, I don't think I have any team figured out. So I don't know. It feels like every week is a new week. We might be in store for a 2007 type season. But I'm gonna say this and defend the defensive backs a little bit. A lot of us talked about this before the summer. This was to be expected. There's going to be ups and downs to this defensive backfield. They're just young. They're talented.
Yeah,
I would like to see a lot more of Crawford. That kid's talented. I mean, Kai, this is his first real action. So there's going to be busted coverages. I mean, Sylvester Smith. Look at all the reps Sylvester Smith's playing. He's a redshirt freshman. We can keep going. You know what I mean? We can keep going. Like, they're young, man. They're young. So the hope is that they'll get better as the season goes on. I tend to think that Charles Kelly and Wesley McGriff will be able to do that with a room full of talented guys. Colton Hood went out to Colorado. That hurt us. And then Tyler Scott got hurt. And that really hurt us. Like, we're already thin back there. Didn't see Kay and Lee out there tonight. So when you get in that kind of situation, and then Keontae got, I think Keontae's playing a little bit out of position. I think we all can kind of see that. Yeah. But he had to play outside tonight just due to the bodies. And then J.C. Hart got in there when guys started getting kind of banged up. So that's just where we're at, man. You got Champ Anthony, a young guy that hasn't played a lot. They're young. They all got drafted last year. I think they're going to get better as it goes. And then we know that the front end has to help the back end. You didn't get any sacks. We got the one. Here's the deal, though. He wasn't sacked coming into this game. That was one of the main things that stood out to me in the preview was like, oh, he hadn't been sacked at all. And the rushing numbers stand
he
up.
extended a lot. He should have been sacked a lot more than once because Auburn got to him at many times. But because he's very elusive, he just extended plays. And then again, as a DB, you are put in bad situations when a QB can escape that type of pressure. So sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're good, buddy. You're good. So, yeah, it's just I kind of agree with your point, too. I think when Ike goes back and does the film breakdown, we'll get a better look at it. But I think that it probably was a whole lot of, hey, let's just contain versus bringing the blitz and doing what DJ Durkin normally does up front.
Right.
So, yeah, I just think that's kind of where that falls. He's a really talented QB. He's going to make a lot of defenses look stupid. At least we held up in the red zone. And, yeah, it's got to get better, man. It's got to get better. But I'm not sold on Arkansas. Like, is Lenore Sellers gonna just light us up to the air? No, we got to limit him. He's gonna make some big plays on the ground, and that's if he's okay. I said Lenore Sellers. I'm thinking, I'm confused. Yeah, my bad. I still got that game on my mind. What a crazy game, right? But yeah, the kid from Boise, they kind of play the same. But he's athletic, man. He can make some big plays. We just got to be able to contain him. Yeah, I expect that the secondary will get better as the season goes. And like in the linebackers, I would like to see a little bit more 17. I think that 17 is ready to play a bigger role than what he's doing. He got in the game late, and I saw him all over the field again. So maybe an extended role for Robert Woodyard to kind of give some of those other linebackers a rest. We haven't seen a whole lot of DeMarcus Riddick, which is kind of surprising because coming into the season, we had heard that he was having a good camp and all that, and I would like to see him get out there and get some plays. So, but yeah, dude, I'm trying to have realistic expectations for this defense because I know the youth. So for me, on the defensive side of the ball, it's the growth. I want to see the growth as the season goes on. Saw some good things, but yeah, man, there's obviously a lot to get fixed. I mean, the 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, whatever it was, where they did the play action and everybody bit and dude was streaking.
Oh yeah.
Like we got to get some of that stuff fixed, man. Guys are too wide open. And if we go up to Missouri and we're still playing like that, Luther Bird might go for 275 on us, man. So
yeah. And then again, that's what concerns me is those games, right? You may not get punished against a Kentucky, but a Missouri, that worries me a lot. So again, it's early in the season, but I think the beauty of this is fixing an obvious issue offensively allows you as a team. Imagine struggling to move the ball and you had the type of situation you had defensively. This would have been a much more uncomfortable game. And so I think the beauty of this, the silver lining, is that Auburn is beginning to address certain deficiencies where they can, right? Some of this is just going to have to be some maturity and growth over the few weeks. So let's get into some of the comments. You guys are super chatting and leaving us some comments. We want to hear from you. Starting with Petal here. Petal says, Hank looked great. I'm trying to understand why Thorne was the guy if we've had Brown. My thoughts here. You guys chime in. I think you finally saw, or we finally had a real QB competition just this week. Right? I think because of poor play last week, I think it forced the coaching staff to truly evaluate these guys in terms of what they're seeing in terms of film, diagnosing plays, and then just executing in practice. And I think for once, Hugh Freeze really and truly began to evaluate Hank Brown as a legit contender. And I think this is the same head coach who said that the QB1 was Peyton Thorne's job to lose. And we pretty much discussed that early in the season in the sense that this is not really a true competition. The competition is for QB2. It's not really for QB1. Last week's game against Cal changed that. And I think we saw a real QB competition and Hank came out on top. And now we're beginning to see why the coaching staff unanimously made that decision to move to Hank Brown. Before I get you guys' thoughts on that, we got Mike G coming in here. I think he's setting up. You ready to go? All right, we're going to bring Mike G in. Mike G, How are you, brother?
It's a win. It's a win. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got a new mic set up today, so I'm testing it. Look, it's a win in Jordan and looked a little shaky defensively to start. Auburn gave up a lot of yards, guys, on the day. 448 yards of total offense they gave up. For Hugh Freeze wasn't happy with it. He said that in the post conference. But I think the most important thing, and the thing that Auburn fans want to hear, is headed into Arkansas. I asked him a question. Is Hank Brown your unquestioned starter? Did he do enough today to earn the starting job, or is it going to be a battle week to week in practice? He said Hank Brown is the unquestioned starter headed into Arkansas.
Did anyone ask about Kayan Lee?
Yes, they did. And no, I don't remember what they said.
Okay. Okay. Ike gave me kind of the scoop in terms of who was starting, and he was noticeably missing from that lineup. So I was curious if anyone asked about his whereabouts, if he's injured, or if it was whatever the reason he was held out today.
Yeah, there were a lot of things happening really quickly. We'll go back and we'll post that presser for everybody so they can hear. There weren't a lot of questions asked. Last week's post game was 5 minutes and 8 seconds. This one wasn't much longer, but he did answer a few questions. They'll probably do a longer one on Monday.
Mike, in terms of what you witnessed with this offense, in terms of what Hank Brown, he went 17 of 25, 235 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers by Hank Brown. Obviously, this is beginning to look more like the Hugh Freeze offense that we envisioned seeing. How do you think Hugh Freeze feels about the direction that he's going heading into SEC play?
I think he feels great. Hank Brown finished with 68% passing, and he had a couple drops. So when you go back and you look at the adjusted, he's going to be north of 73% in his adjusted completion percentage. But, it was something that we said for Peyton going into the season. Anything mid to high 60s is going to be good enough for Auburn to win most games. 17 for 25 for 234 yards and 4 TDs. And most importantly, no turnovers is what Hugh Freeze is happy about. It was his first start. Look, it was not great conditions out here, guys, either, and that can't be understated. The ball was wet. We got pretty good weather to start. It started raining at some point during the game, so it got a little sloppy there for a second. That's when we saw that fumble by Damari, like right after it started raining. But, I think it's happy. Anytime you're easing in a new quarterback, a redshirt freshman, you expect there to be some hiccups. And tonight, he didn't turn the ball over. Now, he had a couple balls that were thrown behind receivers. He had one that was behind Rivaldo Fairweather. But he also did what Hank Brown does. He hit on the deep ball. So hitting Keandre Lambert-Smith on that deep ball, he found our guy Mike O'Reilly in the back of the end zone for a touchdown there on a great rollout to the right. He did some great things in this game. And so, what Hugh Freeze said when he looked at the tape and they made the decision to move to Hank Brown, he saw too many plays that could win them ball games that were being left on the field by Peyton Thorne. So, what it boils down to is Hank Brown potentially will make those plays. And look, the opponent has to be considered tonight, but going into next week, I think you're happy with this start for Hank Brown, and Hugh Freeze seemed happy with it.
One of the things that I liked and enjoyed, Mike G, was that 10 different people caught passes tonight.
Yes.
Which is an indication that he is seeing the field and finding open guys, right? I thought the beautiful check down to Jarquez Hunter was a thing of beauty. He runs into the end zone. Those are plays that we were not seeing weeks prior with a different QB. So I think it has to be stated that with Hank Brown, you're able to attack defenses in ways they never really have had to account for. Now defenses have to think about how you attack Auburn instead of stacking the box now. Your thoughts on that?
Well, look, a guy who took a lot of heat Caesar last year, and Cam Brown had 4 catches. He led all receivers tonight with 4 catches. Now, he didn't lead in yards, but he made some tough catches, including a touchdown catch. He had 5 targets, 4 catches on those 5 targets for 33 yards. They spread the ball around, as you said. Keandre Lambert-Smith led in yards, and he had 72 yards on only 2 catches. So he caught some long of 50 tonight. So it was good to see him spread the ball around. Perry Thompson caught one for 32 yards. Sam Jackson got in action, 1 catch for 26 yards. And Rivaldo Fairweather, 3 catches for 37 yards. Again, Michael Riley only had 1 catch for 3 yards, but he caught a TD there, spreading the ball around. And then most importantly, I know it's not a receiver, but the check down to Jarquez Hunter for the touchdown up the middle, something that we weren't seeing being made from the quarterback position. What I saw that was notable, and why you're seeing so many different receivers get the ball is you're seeing Hank Brown go through his progressions, right?
Yeah.
And that's something where he's not locking in on a receiver like he did in that interception to Cam Coleman at the end of the last game. He decided he was going to throw the ball to Cam. Cam ended up being hurt, and it all but ended the game. Tonight, they stayed out of those situations. I think Hugh Freeze had more concerns about the defense than he did the offense tonight, but it looked good. It's pretty balanced attack when you look at the final numbers here, in terms of how they finished.
Right.
So, Freeze is happy. I think Auburn is happy. 235 yards through the air, 268 yards on the ground. Not bad.
Is this the performance that you think Auburn needed to see going into SEC play?
I think this is the performance that Hank Brown needed. I don't know if this is exactly what Auburn needed to see, but it was a step in the right direction. Look, Alabama A&M inflated everybody's sense of expectation, and then Cal brought them back to earth. And I'm going to lie to you guys, tonight it looked rough at points. But, when you look at Auburn's drive chart, it was not a bad start to the game for Hank Brown. They started off with a 9-play drive for 32 yards. Jeremiah Cobb set them up with a short field on the great kickoff return. That drive lasted 3 minutes and 18 seconds and ended with a TD. Second drive, again, 3 minutes, 2 seconds, 7 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. They kicked the field goal on the third drive. By fourth drive, they had a punt. Finally, the fumble on the fifth drive. You open the second half with 4 straight TD drives. Incredible. So that was the start that Hank Brown needed. This tonight was about seeing if Hank Brown could handle the pressure, getting him ready, and then this was his chance to solidify the job going into next week. Hugh Freeze made sure to say there would not be a QB battle in practice this week for QB1. They're moving forward as he's the QB1. That helps galvanize your team. I think that's all he was trying to accomplish today. Get out of here with the win. Get the positive vibes going, and then now you start to open up your offense a little bit more headed into SEC play.
Is there a possibility Auburn begins to see more of some of the dynamic guys? Obviously, you expect Cam Coleman back next week against Arkansas, but one of the things that I would like to ask Hugh Freeze, or someone ask Hugh Freeze, is there a possibility of a Malcolm Simmons sighting next week? Because we've seen how dynamic he is with the ball in his hands. What do you think Hugh Freeze does with some of those younger guys moving forward?
I don't know if this matters, Caesar, but I'll tell you this. I'm going to keep tweeting it until it happens. Every time Malcolm Simmons touches the ball, something explosive happens. Yet his usage rate has been so little since that first game, I don't understand it at all. I'm not saying that Robert Lewis is a bad receiver, but I am saying I think there's more room in this offense to use Malcolm Simmons' talents to create explosive plays, and you need that. You saw they said he stepped out before he got in the end zone. I'm not gonna lie, I watched the replay a couple times. I didn't see the step out. Dylan is shaking his head. I didn't see.
I was watching on TV. I got zoomed in. I was like, I can't see any sideline there.
Yeah. So I think Malcolm Simmons can help this offense. They what's funny? They were kicking the ball short, and you know what Hugh Freeze did? They snuck him in there on kickoff, and look what he did. Every time this kid catches the ball, he's dynamic. I don't know why you wouldn't want more of that in your offense. So look, you got to start using the playmakers here. Camden Brown has proven that he can play at this level in a competent offense with a competent passer. And, I think that, Perry Thompson, even, did you see the adjustment on the deep ball that he caught from Hank late in the game? Those are things that are really, really hard to teach. These guys just have instincts for the ball. They seem to be deferring to experience over talent at this point. I think it's a mistake. Now, Keandre Lambert-Smith is both experienced and talented. But, and I know I gave him a lot of grief early on, but if Sam Jackson is going to be a playmaker, get him on the field more. right? We're seeing these guys make plays. At some point you got to tighten up those rotations. They went to two extremes. Alabama A&M, we saw a great rotation. In game 2, we saw almost no rotation because they said they didn't have rhythm. And then tonight, I would say we didn't see much of a rotation to start. They started to get into that in the second half. But, I think that these young guys have earned more opportunities on the field. And, maybe there's a chance I'm going to ask them about that Monday when we get a chance to talk to them again.
Well, Mike G, closing thoughts as you wrap up this segment about your thoughts about Game 3, where Auburn is going into SEC play.
Look, Auburn's got a lot of work to do. That defense is going to keep Hugh Freeze up at night. I'm sorry, they gave up way too many yards. That quarterback looked like the greased up deaf guy from Family Guy. They couldn't tackle him to save their life tonight. It was an embarrassment, the tackling at points, I think. But look, you had some bright spots. You had, I think it was Jaron Thompson make an amazing interception, essentially reverse mossing a dude to intercept the ball. That was great to see that. And then you saw another interception by Antonio Kite on the back end. They've got to start to get turnovers, guys. If you can't win the turnover battle, it's going to be really hard to win games in SEC play. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of adjustments DJ Durkin's defense is going to make next week. They've started slow 2 games in a row now, and they've got Taylor Green is playing well, and Arkansas is coming, and you've got to be able to defend him. And they're going to look at this tape and think, look, we need to use his legs. We need to get Auburn off balance, and we need to throw the ball down the field because these DBs are not getting their heads around. They're not playing the ball. Quite frankly, the defensive secondary is not playing well. So Hugh Freeze said it. He said they need to play with more poise, and they need to play the ball better than they're playing it. I think that's going to be a major focus and emphasis in practice this week. And then you got to continue. This continues to be about the maturation of Hank Brown. If he's your starter going into next week, you've made the decision to bench Peyton Thorne. You've got to make sure that he continues to grow his confidence, because you cannot shrink your offense going into SEC play. That whole, I promise you the package won't be big, that everybody kind of made fun of this week, you can't do that. The package has to be bigger. It can't be smaller. And I think Hugh Freeze is going to find a way to make that happen.
And I think with the performance Hank Brown has chipped in tonight, I think you have to begin to open up the playbook. I think he's proven that you can trust him to do more with Hank Brown at QB. Yeah. So we'll see.
He's definitely trustworthy. It was funny. He looked in the pregame. He looked comfortable and confident, and he looked poised. He didn't look nervous at all. And he just went out and he did it. He came and he sat down with us. He said, "I'm a gunslinger. That's what I do." And I like that, man. He seems very comfortable in his own skin. And so as he continues to earn the coach's trust with his decision-making, they know he has the arm talent, but it's the decision-making that got Peyton Thorne benched. So decision-making is what's got to keep Hank Brown in the game. And if he continues to make the right decisions, to not get greedy, to take his checkdowns and to set receivers up. There were a couple of ill-advised throws tonight. He had one that was definitely interception worthy, where he threw into quadruple
triple coverage almost.
You can't do that. That's probably an interception in conference play. So he's got to figure that out.
And I saw your tweet earlier when you were on the field. His hair looked amazing, so I knew he was going to have a great day. Mike
Sunshine!
G. Mike G, appreciate you joining us. We will catch you on the weekend tailgate tomorrow, as you and I will give more of your thoughts about the game. Appreciate it, Mike.
Thanks. Warrior guys.
There you go. All righty. We're getting back in here. I'm going to bring Dustin back up. We got some more comments that we want to get into. TJ Lou with the $4.99 super chat says New Mexico had 1,100 something penalties, and the defense still somehow kept them in the game. Needs to be fixed before SEC play. I mean, again, it was the best way to describe this game was sloppy in many respects, because from penalties to missed tackles, bad angles, get caught staring into the backfield, running backs running past you. Like, there was a lot of things that were put on film that DJ Durkin and the defensive assistant coaches are going to have to begin to coach out of and work through with those guys. And to Dustin's point, it's going to take some time for those guys to become a lot more disciplined, assignment sound. But then also, guys got to get healthy. Dustin, you chatted us in the chat, private chat, that Ken Lee suffered a calf strain and was out for tonight's game. So that's why we saw the rotations and the starters that we saw. So that's another part of it too. Guys who are typically serviceable and who do a good job for us. Some of those guys were not dressed out tonight. So got to get healthy, but also got to improve with some of the younger guys in that room.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to. I'm not making excuses, and it's got to be better. But I bet y'all, when we look back at the end of the season, New Mexico's offense is going to have good numbers.
Well,
Defense
listen,
sucks, but they can put up some points.
They scored 39 on Arizona. They've been scoring 30 plus. So we did all of that and held them to 19. So that's to your point. This is a good defense. It's just obvious there's some things that this defense needs to improve upon. And I think what makes it bad is that the secondary has been the team's strength for the past 2 seasons. So it's like a glaring difference now this year, now that those guys who were the strength of the defense have moved on to the next level. These guys will get better. These guys were highly recruited, regarded coming out of high school. They will improve for sure. Centauri Calhoun says it wasn't quite 50 plus, but the baby goat is legit. Talk to me, guys, about that.
Yeah, let them come out next week. Come out next week versus an SEC team. Light this thing up, and the hype's only going to continue to grow. But you can only play who you have in front of you, right? He did everything he could tonight. 4 turnovers to no interceptions in your first start in the rain. Give it to me, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to see how this defense plays against Arkansas before I can fully trust and call him the baby goat. I mean, he's gonna have to start outscoring teams all the way through that are SEC caliber. And Taylon Green is no joke. He's more of a true dual threat than Devin Dempierre is, and I don't think a 3-man front is going to be able to lock him down. He played very well against UAB, and he's been playing well all year. So I'm not going to give him the baby goat title just yet. I can respect people who are, but for right now, he's just going to be Hank Brown until I see what he can do against SEC caliber teams.
Fair enough. Fuller with the super chat says Adrian Wojnarowski just in. Hank Brown confirmed Tom Brady's stepchild, aka baby goat.
Okay.
The bug train is in full effect among some of us. Bubba and the Old Man Sports Talk. Appreciate y'all being here. Says the gingerbread man.
I like that one.
So we got a lot of nicknames for him. TJ Lou says Hank is going to be great long-term in development. His progressions, checkdowns were second to none. He does need to work on his clock management, though. And again, these are some of the things that what I was curious about was what type of redshirt freshman mistakes were we going to see out of a kid like Hank Brown, right? Like, the mistakes were going to happen. You just hope that they were few and far, right? So the false start, not the false start, but the delay of game, missing a receiver. Again, he's making the right decisions. I think the only decision he made that was bad was the one where he threw it in the double and threw it into coverage. That was a dangerous throw. But there's some things that they're going to work on. And obviously, to me, I think this is what makes Hugh Freeze's job fun is you get to work on these things as opposed to why did you throw to this guy who was clearly covered, right? This is the part of your job that you actually enjoy because these are things that you expect to clean up as a coach when you have a young QB. But thoughts on that, guys?
I like Peyton Thorne. You threw it to you threw a hospital ball to Cam Coleman. Why are you throwing a 50-50 ball to him on the next play? Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at a true freshman and the only thing you're really looking at negatively is the errant throws, you're going to get that from any young quarterback as errant throws. It's the issue when you get it from the veteran guys that you're getting those bad throws. But he doesn't really have any. He doesn't have any turnovers, which is a massive plus as opposed to last game where you had a quarterback throw 4 interceptions. But I think that if you're a quarterback whisperer that Hugh Freeze is, and he said before that he is very good at developing quarterbacks, I look at Hank Brown as a massive improvement in terms of, you have more time with them. You're going to be able to do more with them. He's going to move the idea of what the offense is going to look like under Hugh Freeze along quicker than Peyton Thorne does, because Hugh Freeze wants to throw the ball down the field more. He wants to get those chunk plays in this offense. He wants to be able to pass the ball, and of course, you want a dual threat guy who can get out of the pocket whenever he needs to. But Hank Brown is going to develop in a way where he is going to constantly do those check downs, those progressions, and when he's sitting in the pocket. That's something you notice that so much after you watch like last week's game and watch this. What I saw from this week is watching a younger guy look at the number one target and then see he's covered and then move to the number two guy and move to the number two to number three and then look down and see Jarquez Hunter wide open for a touchdown. So that's something that's just chef's kiss to watch a young guy do.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dylan. I think that was the check down to Jarquez is probably my favorite decision and just the favorite throw from the night, just because of everything that you laid out there. Like, we just haven't seen that in a while. Guys, I got to get out of here. We're going to be live tomorrow over the Up Tempo podcast at 9 a.m. So y'all get over there and join us. But I just want to say this as far as Hank Brown goes. You remember, go back to when Peyton Thorne was named the starter last year. Hugh Freeze said, "I'm doing it because he's pressing." I'm not here to, relive all that nightmare that was. But then you get into this week, and it's pretty much known it's an open quarterback battle. And so the pressure's on Peyton Thorne again. And the pressure is now on Hank Brown. Who's going to step up? And obviously Hank Brown won the job. With the pressure on, he performed during the week. Then he comes out on Saturday. Pressure's on. Whole crowd cheers your name when you get announced over the starting board, the video board, starting lineup. He like I said, he had that point where he was 1 for 6. The game got tight, 17-13 at halftime. I know a lot of us were probably thinking like, oh boy, is the shoe about to fall here? We about to really Auburn this thing up? We about to lose to both teams from New Mexico in back-to-back years? And he stepped up, went 9 for 11 in the second half, and did his thing. So I'm not here to pound the table and say, like, all right, it's all figured out. He's Tom Brady's son. Like, I'm not with all that. But listen, he's done everything he could do so far. And at some point, let's ask ourselves, you stepped up in the bowl game, all of a sudden the offense started moving. All of a sudden guys that couldn't catch the ball all day start catching it.
Right.
You come out and you look good in the spring game. We hear that really, as far as the scrimmages go in the fall and stuff, it's not that PT's head and shoulders above outperforming you. It's just that he knows the game and the offense overall a little bit better, the experience thing. But as far as just spinning the ball, we kept hearing Peyton has better days sometimes, but Hank has his days too. So it wasn't like Peyton was just running away with it. Then he gets into the game versus Alabama A&M, does everything he can. I understand the opponent. He does everything he can. And then he steps up in his moment tonight and does everything he can. So at some point, we got to look at it and say, hey, maybe there is something here. And let's be realistic with our expectations. If he starts the rest of the year, he might have a rough night at Missouri. He's probably going to have a rough game at Athens because our roster is not ready to compete with that yet, right? And that's going to be his first time in those situations and all. There's going to be bad games. That's just what it is. Just like corners that have never played before are going to get burnt this year. They're going to get burnt. There's going to be miscommunications between Sylvester Smith and Antonio Kite. It sucks, but that's where it is. And that's why Hugh keeps saying, as we're working to 2025, we're working until 2026. No one wants to be there, but when you have the last two head coaches just kind of ignore recruiting, especially at the line of scrimmage like they did. And look, we had a freshman lineman in DeAndre Carter that's already in the 2 deep. That kid's going to be a stud, man. That kid's going to be a stud. So it sucks in the moment when you're going through the mistakes and you're seeing the ups and the downs. But I think that we just got to kind of remember where the program is, to where the program's headed. Hey, we got a 4-star linebacker today. I think we saw on the field we need some more of those. Elijah Mendez is a ball player, top 100 recruit. So good night, man. I'm excited for what I saw from Hank Brown. We did all we could do. I understand the opponent. I know New Mexico sucks at defense. I get it. But build off of it. Let's go on the next week. Let's get a big SEC win, man. Warrior Day Eagle, y'all join us over at the Up Tempo podcast at 9 a.m. Dylan, C-Dub,
Tune
appreciate
in.
y'all, man.
Tune in. Head over there and subscribe to the Uptempo podcast and check out their content. Great content.
Yeah, thank you,
Dustin and all does a great job. Appreciate you joining us, man.
Yes, sir. War Eagle.
There you go.
There you go.
Frankie Freeze says no QB turnovers, and we still had 3 turnovers. I logged 2 turnovers, just the 2 fumbles there. I think we did put the ball on the ground another time, but
Yeah, the muff punt would have been the other one.
The muff punt, Damari's fumble, but Jarquez put the ball on the ground. He actually put the ball on the ground twice because the snap to him and he put on the ground, and then the ball came out that Fairweather had recovered. So we put the ball on the ground 4 times total, but only lost it twice.
I'm not going to give too much on the Damari fumble because it had just started storming out of nowhere. The monsoon came down. Someone was going to fumble. The muff punt's got that we've already seen 2 of those this year. That's got to stop. I've already seen Auburn lose too many games because of muff punts in my lifetime. And Jarquez's fumble looked like he chose to fumble the ball. He turned right into the tackle. I don't really understand why he decided to cut inside and then go arm first into the safety. But yeah, I only blame I'll put Jarquez's fumble on him, but Damari's was definitely weather induced.
Yeah, it was disappointing to see because Auburn was. I almost called it, Dylan. I almost called it 2-1 turnover battle. Auburn had it, and then Auburn muffed the punt. So again, you want obviously Auburn didn't lose it this time, but again, you want to see a game where Auburn has at most 1 turnover or no turnovers. So taking care of the ball has to become a priority. And that's now 8 turnovers through 3 games. That's still not good. Auburn has to begin to improve on that and start winning the turnover battle. Let's see here. Heavy says, I just took a huge hit from the hopium bomb. I'm ready to be hurt again. Hopefully that hurt doesn't begin next week for you. Hopefully Auburn is able to build on some of the things that you saw today. So we'll see. We'll see, Heavy. Appreciate you being here with us. TJ Luke comes back and says, Damari is the best overall back, I feel. And a lot of people have been kind of critical of Jarquez, but Jarquez had a good night. The running backs had a good night overall. It was good seeing Cobb get in there and make some runs, but your thoughts on TJ's comment there, Dylan?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree in a way. I think Damari has a more explosive feel to him. And it might just because, he got less carries. He got 10 less carries. So, Jarquez is going to get tired every once in a while of running. But I don't know. From what I've seen, I think Damari does more for the offense. I think you can send Damari around the edge and up the middle. When Jarquez, I see him more as up the middle back and Cobb's around the edge. So I think overall, Damari is the more balanced back out of the 2. And I think whenever you see him in open field, you really feel like, oh, well, this guy needs more carries. So I agree with this comment.
All right. Sloan Love says, I am worried Freeze starts Thorne again next week. Well, Mike G already put that to bed. Hugh Freeze has confirmed that Hank Brown will be the starter next week against Arkansas. So no need to be worried, Sloan. Just relax and enjoy the dub tonight. Eugenia says, run game awesome, but ditch that goal line wildcat. Yeah, it's. I'm eager to see them do some different things run wise outside of the goal line wildcat. It's a bit of a telegraphing of what you're going to do. And I think against SEC competition, I don't know how successful you're going to be because teams are already just blitzing. They're just blitzing and sending everyone at it, and it's becoming less effective. What's your thoughts there, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it works in some instances. I think it just kind of depends on who you use there. I think that it could work if you use a receiver by the name of Malcolm Simmons. I feel like any trick play would work with him. But I think with Quez, I think if you're wanting to run the Wildcat, Jeremiah Cobb would be your preferred back because you can trust him.
Or Sam Jackson.
To go around the edge. Or Sam Jackson. Even Damari. I think you're looking at guys who can go around the edge. if the middle gets blocked up, because they're going to load the box for those plays, and the counter on the Wildcat works well for getting around the tackles. But add in some more stuff with it. I think Sam Jackson, add him in there, you can maybe throw the ball out of that formation, and no one would see that coming. I guess unless you see Sam Jackson, maybe they might pass it because he was a quarterback. But
he's an athlete. He can do different stuff with it. Oh, and you can have him either hand off to a Cobb or whoever. Like, if this is the base look, if this is all there is to the goal line Wildcat, then ditch it. But if you're adding a wrinkle to it, 1 week here, 1 week there, then I'm all for it. Right? It's early in the season, so sometimes what coaches do is they'll show a certain look, but they have different plays off of that certain look. And so I'm hoping that there's more to the goal line Wildcat than what we're currently seeing right now. And if that's the case, then hold on, Eugenia. More is coming to that. There's more to it than what we're currently seeing. I hope. Centauri Calhoun says Hank Brown to Camden Brown. Stay tuned. And again, I was excited for Camden Brown. Leading the team in receptions, getting a score. This was a guy who hung around, Dylan, who I thought was probably going to be in the portal because it was clear Cam Coleman had pretty much jumped him in the depth chart. And this is a guy who was here 2 years before he was. So you just wonder, would he ever get a shot in the offense? And I couldn't be more happier of anyone tonight than Camden Brown. Your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he scared me to death on his first catch of the night because he bobbled it and then brought it back in. But yeah, I've been waiting for a Camden Brown potential breakout game for a while. He's always been the guy that I talk about like, maybe this is the year for Camden Brown. Then that year doesn't really work out. But when you have a guy that you've practiced with and Hank Brown week in and week out, you're comfortable with him. I really think you're going to see a lot more of Camden Brown down the stretch. I think that with what we saw tonight in 10 different receivers catching a pass, that bodes well down the line, that you're wanting to balance out your wide receivers. You don't want to have, you don't want a guy to get 6 more targets than your wide receiver 4 does because you're trying to get guys fresh. SEC play is right around the corner, and by right around the corner, I mean it's next week. So you want to get those guys in. You want to see more Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson, Camden Brown, Caleb Burton, and Sam Jackson. All those guys should be getting just as much love as Cam Coleman, Robert Lewis, and Keandre Lambert-Smith.
Yeah. Philip Cameron just became a member again, I believe. Welcome. Marshall Jones says, does Malcolm Simmons take over at punt returner? And this could be interesting because we've talked about ways that Malcolm Simmons can get into the game and affect the game. If you're not going to throw him the ball in the offense, right? How can he get in there? Because every time he's in on special teams, something special happens, right? Whether it's recovering a block punt in an end zone or a kick return for a lot of yards. Could he be someone to consider taking over at punt returner?
At this point, I would just, anyone who's willing just to catch the ball and fair catch it. I just safely grab it, call the fair catch as soon as the ball gets up in the air, and just grab it. I mean,
Deontay has been surprising to me.
Yeah,
he's been surprising to me because he has been very sure-handed, it seems, up until this year, or So I'm curious as to what's been happening with him. That has been shocking to me because even when he gets the ball, he's been very dynamic in punt returns. So he was someone that I look forward to seeing returning punts, but now it's starting to become a sense of anxiety for me, a source of anxiety for me, because I'm like, will he secure it? So I'm curious to see what the special teams coaches do as it pertains to punt return. I'm curious about that.
I do still kind of prefer Malcolm Simmons as that potential blocked punt guy because I think that's where he kind of fits in. He already has a touchdown off of that this year. So
yeah,
I think that he kind of fits that mold. Just put Will Upton back there just to fair catch it. We'll get the ball there. Or just don't put anyone back there at this point.
James Burnett says, fellas, I think we're in a situation where we will have to outscore a lot of teams, not unless we fix this defense. Thoughts on that? I think that I don't know. I think it depends on the type of athlete that is at QB, right? I think that DJ Durkin really did not want their QB to run wild on us. I think he was almost willing to keep everything in front, give cushion, but when you have an inexperienced defensive backfield, you're going to see some missed assignments, miscommunications. You're going to see some things that are just sloppy. Will we have to outscore a lot of teams? I don't know about a lot, but because there are some teams that are still trying to figure some things out offensively themselves. Arkansas does concern me, though. That could be one of the teams we may have to outscore, right? Oklahoma. You just never know. Georgia actually struggled tonight, so you just never know based on the matchups, because it's all about the matchups. Missouri, probably, right? So some of these teams, it's about the matchups, and who is the signal caller that we're having to defend. That worries me. I think with DJ Durkin, the last thing he wanted to do was see Dampier throw against our defense, but also run against our defense. So I think that's why you saw a lot of that 3-man front, having a lot of guys playing back behind them, keeping Dampier in front of the defense. So I think that was a big reason for it. You blitz him, you send a lot of guys, and he gets past those guys. It's night. He may take that to the house. I'm curious to see if the game plan for tonight will be something similar we see against Arkansas.
I hope not.
I know, Dylan, you don't want to see it, but I understand. I understand why DJ Durkin went with that game plan. He may make some tweaks to it because based on what guys can do, but keeping those guys in front of you is the way to go, and making them have to methodically move down the field instead of gut you for a huge play.
Yeah, but my thing is with what we saw tonight, I mean, you want to keep Taylor Green from running the ball, but Taylor Green is also getting to the point where he can be considered an elite passer. Andrew Armstrong had an outstanding game today against UAB, which means UAB, but he likes to pass it to 4 guys in total. Andrew Armstrong, Isaiah Sategna, Tyron Broden, and Luke Haas. He gets the ball around. And if Auburn's not constantly pressuring him and trying to get him down on the ground, Taylor Green might go for 400 against Auburn's defense if there's not constant pressure on him on every single thing. Spy, I don't even know if it would really depend on who you want to sacrifice just to watch him in the backfield, but you can't just put 3 guys in. Sam Pittman, as lowly as I rank him in a SEC head coaching ranking, he can coach an offensive line. And if Auburn's got to find a way to get pressure on him every single play, while also making sure they're not, giving up a body to and coverage like they were tonight.
All right. Mojo Nixon says, "Does the rise of Hank mean we whiff on Deuce?" What are your thoughts on this one, Dylan?
I mean, I don't really think so. I mean, you look at Alabama and how they've been recruiting throughout the years. They constantly have their young guys go in, then they pick up another 4 or 5-star true freshman. I think that it kind of helps out more because you're seeing the young guy get implemented a lot earlier than expected. And if Hank Brown, you always hope and pray that, you have a steady system of 3 years in and 3 years out, or 3 years in and then out of your program to the NFL. So I think Deuce would see it as an opportunity to potentially play a little sooner than expected. I don't think there are very few freshman quarterbacks who can go in and play right away. I think that, I guess this year you've probably seen more than usual with Dylan Raiola and DJ Lagway has gotten in and looked very good, but more often than not, the freshman guys don't get in year one. And with that, I mean, he'd have a quarterback battle with Walker White by his second year if all goes well with Hank Brown. But yeah, I think that watching a quarterback actually play well, a young guy at that, and a guy who is a Hugh Freeze quarterback through and through. I mean, recruited all throughout, was going to go to Liberty, then followed Hugh Freeze over here. And it only took 2 years to develop him into a quarterback that you can expect to perform well, or I guess 2 off seasons to perform well in your scheme. So I think it does more good than bad.
I actually think I agree with you here. I actually think the direction Auburn was going with Peyton Thorne as the QB, I think it was actually hurting Auburn with Deuce Knight. So actually, I think this is better because you're still on schedule to put proof of concept on the field in year 2 with Hank Brown, and Auburn's getting to the point where you can't just sell the future. You have to begin to show what you're trying to do offensively to keep recruiting and bringing in some of these blue chippers on offense and to get them excited about what and see themselves in this offense, right? So you have to be able to show a quarterback going out there and throwing for 4 touchdowns and moving the ball. Like that QB has to see himself being able to be one of those guys as well. And then the beauty of it is you can just tell them there's not a lot of guys behind him. There's not this is an opportunity for you to come in and be the next guy. Auburn does not have a solidified backup behind Hank Brown right now. And so you're building depth, and the goal is to bring in a QB every recruiting cycle. And so no, I don't think this hurts Auburn with a Deuce Knight or a QB in the 2025 recruiting class, just because Hank Brown has stepped into that role. If anything, I think it helps it. Ant Robinson became a member. Ant Robinson is still taking victory laps out here. He predicted Hank Brown as the starter by game 3. He is the starter and will remain the starter and had a good night tonight. So Ant, if you need some water as you're taking some laps, let me know, brother. Fuller says 2013, we had a bad defense, but won games. That is very true. That is very true. Obviously, that's not how you want to win because that made for a stressful 2013 at times. but I think that we have better coaching this year. I think we have a really solid defensive staff. I just think there's a lot of new people on the front line, in the front 7, as well as in the secondary, and getting those guys to gel and understand the defense and grow into their roles. It's going to be a process. Heavy says with the emote flex and followed by all of the things here. Appreciate you, Heavy. Appreciate that. Dylan, do you have any final thoughts, sir?
I think you're going into a week where you can rest easy. Auburn fans and coaches and players alike. It's only week 3, but now we're going into week 4, where Auburn fans are content with the quarterback battle, or where the quarterback battle is gone. You have Hank Brown back there, and the fan base is at peace. And I think that's a great thing to get into. And I can't wait to see what Hugh Freeze says on Monday whenever he gets asked questions. And hopefully just get healthy for everybody. Everybody get healthy. I want everybody 100% whenever Arkansas walks in the Jordan-Hare Stadium next week, because I think a win versus Arkansas would do good for Auburn. And you're still looking at hopefully the 7-win margin at this point of the season.
War Eagle with the $50 appreciate you says, I'm a bankhead Brown. I'll take your job. Okay, I'm old school. Some will get the reference. Yeah, I do get it. Appreciate you, War Eagle, for being here with us, man. Appreciate the super chat, especially there, man. Heavy says it's only week insert number here. Of course, they weren't gonna let you get out of here without that, Dylan.
Yeah, I'm trying to kill it myself. I keep saying it, then I'll make fun of it.
Oh my goodness. But I agree with you. I think what I like most is that you're starting to really see proof of concept with what the offense is supposed to look like. and taking a lot of pressure off of the running backs to have to actually perform because you're giving the defense something else to consider, right? The days of just lining up and stacking, putting 7 in the box, 8 in the box. Auburn is going to make you pay for that. And so I like that it's forcing defenses to play us more evenly. Granted, it's just New Mexico. They don't have a good defense, but I'm curious to see how this offense looks against in Arkansas, right? That's the thing. This was making sure Hank gets in there and gets comfortable, and seeing him get comfortable was good to see, right? He got really comfortable. He did take a deep ball shot in this game, Dylan, and it was a beautiful ball to Keandre Lambert-Smith. So he's getting comfortable here. He's getting comfortable, and if he's able to make some plays next week and remain comfortable, remain poised, and build on some of the success we saw today, I really like where this offense is going and where it would likely be towards the end of the season. We'll see how the rest of the team comes behind that as far as defense and how they play. So Nina says Dylan just jinxed us with only week 3. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So we will be back tomorrow. Obviously, Dylan, plug the next live that you got at the College Loop. When is y'all next show?
We'll be live tomorrow at 6:00 p.m. Central Standard Time to talk about the game, talk about some college football. What does Arkansas look like? A little way too early before we get into a little film review throughout the week for myself. So, yeah, 6:00 p.m. on the College Loop.
Awesome. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. It's getting pretty late, so we're going to let you go. Before you get out of here, share this video. We want you to smash that like button and please subscribe to the channel. You can find the Rapport on X and IG. You can even find us on TikTok at TW Rapport. That's it for now, guys. Enjoy the win and enjoy your weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.